and welcome to episode 9 of the Black Sheep Knitter podcast. My name is Sarah, and I am coming to you from the Arctic, otherwise known as Madison, Wisconsin. We are under a severe winter weather advisory for cold weather. It is -3 Fahrenheit, something like -17 Celsius, and I will not be leaving this humble abode until Wednesday because I know. So anyway, if you're new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. On this podcast, we generally talk about knitting, but also crochet, quilting, sewing, maybe even painting, sometimes drawing. Usually it's fiber arts though. Usually it's fiber arts. But if any of that sounds amazing to you, then you're in the right place. I encourage you on this fine winter day, if you're in this hemisphere, to get some things to drink, some snacks, maybe take a potty break, maybe even get a blanket. I don't know, because I have not been here for a hot minute and it's gonna be a chat. I have many things to explain. I don't really need to explain, but you know what I'm saying. I have many things to show. I have many things to be grateful for. So, I'm gonna try to talk fast, but like not so fast that you're like, what is she even talking about? But like 3 hours feels excessive even by knitting podcast standards. So I'm not gonna do that. So anyway, let's just get into it. So you might be wondering, if you're returning, where have you been? So you might recall that my last video, I was full of vigor. I was very excited because I had finally come to the end of my home renovations. That is what ate all of 2024 up until that last video. And I was so excited because it was like, oh, I'm done. Everybody said it couldn't be. They were like, you're never going to be finished renovating your house. And I said, oh no, your girl doesn't do 20-year projects. I mean, unless they're knitting. But I was like, no, I really don't want to live in a house that's like not finished. I don't mean like, you know, perfect, but just like the major things need to be done. I was like, I can't live like that. It's just like not who I am. And so I had gotten to the end of that and I was so excited and so ready to like get back into like a normal flow of life. And perimenopause had been kicking my butt and that seemed to be kind of under control. And then I was in a car accident. So I was driving to the gym one lovely early weekday morning, and a woman decided while the traffic was stopped on the opposite side of the street that she would just slide through the stopped cars into oncoming traffic. And who was in the lane at the time? Well, that would be me. So I'm okay. I was okay. Luckily, thank goodness. My car, Priscilla, had seen 3 high-speed rear endings in Boston. And I remember being told by my auto body shop at the time, like, one more rear ending and like the car will be totaled. And I thought, and luckily, I mean, it's been, I don't know, 8 years or something since I've been in an accident. So it was pretty great. I was just like, okay, well, Priscilla, who's a very small Mazda 2, or I suppose I should say was a very small Mazda 2, had really taken quite a few lickings. And I was very grateful because I was uninjured mostly in all of those accidents. And they were people speeding, tailgating, and then me having to stop because of people in front of me or whatever, and them just like slamming into the back of the car. People in Boston they're interesting drivers. That's all I'm gonna say. I brought that energy here when I moved back and luckily it's gone. But this fine day, this person T-boned me. So she hit the driver's side door full on, just like, because she was trying to speed into the lane to get her. And I'm thinking, why would you not look into the lane and see that many cars had been going past before you did that? So anyway, I don't actually know what happened to the driver. They did something that I found at the time rather insufferable, which is that they cried and it made it all about them. And I was like, you hit me. Like, what? But I do know that people react to shock and that it's a type of trauma also to strike another person with your vehicle. So I tried to give them grace, and I wasn't mean. I didn't yell. I didn't do any, there was no theatrics. I just was like, okay, we need to pull around and get insurance and whatever. But she could have really hurt me, or anyone for that matter. And so I hope she learns how to be a better driver in the future. But anyway, that happened. And I got the call a couple of days after I took the car to the auto body shop to get it fixed, because it was very clearly, I had witnesses and everything. So it's very clearly her fault. And I knew that I would be getting the car fixed at her insurance's, whatever. But they called to tell me the car was totaled, and I've only owned one car, which is Priscilla, and I didn't know what that meant. So I had to keep asking questions like, what does that mean? And I finally figured out that what they were telling me is, we're not going to fix this car because it's not worth how much it would cost to fix. And I thought, but this is the only car that I really ever wanted, and the only car that I want, and the only car I plan to have until I'm dead. So, huh? And I also live in a city where I have to drive. I have to drive places, like a lot. Like, public transit here is it's real iffy. Like, if you're going short distances or you have a designated route that you go every day, sure. But I have places all over that require sometimes 35 minutes of driving. And I'm certainly not going to try to be on the bus. So anyway, I had to buy an emergency vehicle. And that's, even saying it out loud right now, sounds crazy. Because what? But that's what happened, because I thought I can't even really be a week without a car, because how am I going to get to the grocery store? None of the grocery stores that I go to, as far as I know, I don't know how the bus even, I think there might be a bus in hindsight, but that was my panic, right? Of like the gym, the bus, my like physical therapy appointments, my doctor, like all these things are very not central. And so I just thought I have to buy a new car. So I did eventually, not eventually, what am I saying? I panicked and texted everybody I knew who had some kind of man in their life. And yes, that is very sexist, but it seems to be the case that most men here anyway know a lot about cars, and most women don't really seem to, because none of my female friends had anything to offer me except, do you want me to ask my dad, or do you want me to ask my boyfriend? And I was like, yes. So we did that. They made a bunch of suggestions. I asked my neighborhood Facebook group. They made some suggestions. And then I sort of looked around. My friend Dana was like really the savior, because she found a car I could test drive the very next morning. So I did that, and I just bought the car like on the spot. So I now have a Kia Niro, and it's a lovely vehicle. I did not like it for several weeks. Like, I literally actively hated this car because it wasn't Priscilla. So, but Twyla, my Kia Niro, and I have come to an understanding. I do, however, hate the fact that she looks like every other car in Madison, to the point where I will walk up to a car in the parking lot at Target and try to get in the car and realize after I back up and check the license plate, this isn't Twyla. What I loved about Priscilla is that she was turquoise and easy to spot and small and tiny and fit into every kind of little parking space, and Twyla is not that. But they don't make Mazda 2s anymore, which is also why I was so distraught to lose my car, because I can't get it again. So anyway, that was a very hard thing to have to accept. And I realized that it is very privileged to be able to just at the drop of a hat buy a brand new car, especially like a brand new SUV. But it was very traumatic for me and very upsetting. And I had not planned to buy another car literally for the rest of my life, because I'd only had 65,000 miles on it and I had had it for 12 years. So I thought, as long as this car doesn't rust from underneath me, I won't ever really have to buy another car. And then I had to. So the universe was like, just kidding, time for some changes. And, you know, I had to roll with it. So anyway, that was one of the reasons why I was gone. Perimenopause, as I think I mentioned in my last video, has been kicking my butt. So lots of weird symptoms, no real assistance from my healthcare team, air quotes, because it's really like a doctor and a bunch of random people that I see like on occasion, and she's not that great. So I saw a different doctor so I could try to get some sort of answers. And she was very rude and not helpful and made fun of the fact that I'm probably infertile. So that was cool. So that was not also a great start to that period of rejuvenation that I was feeling. And then someone stole my skeleton. So many of you know that I'm a weirdo. I used to be an archaeologist, and for a hot minute I was an osteologist, which is the person who studies bones. I was on a dig in Greece, and I sort of, we dug up a bunch of skeletons and tried to age and sex the bones and try to figure out like how they died and like circumstances and all that other stuff. So anyway, I have a lot of bones that aren't human, they're plastic, but I have a lot of skeletons and skulls and things like around my house. And I had a skeleton, Ralph, who used to sit outside on my stoop as like a protector of the house, but also kind of like as a funny, quirky personality thing for my neighbors, because I wanted to sort of let them know that like, you've got this person moving in who's like a little bit, a little weird. But anyway, I came home one day, came up the stoop, unlocked the door, looked down and thought something's amiss. Like what's, huh? And just, Ralph was just gone. Like there was like a little wet stain because like it had rained and he had, you know, he's just sitting there outside in the rain. But he just wasn't there. And it was so upsetting to know that somebody had like come up on my property and just like stolen this thing that was like kind of a fun, quirky neighborhood anomaly that people, you know, like even like the UPS drivers and like the post office workers would like pose him with like my packages. So like he was just like kind of a fun little thing that everybody got to enjoy. And so it was like very upsetting. So that was like another thing. But I took like a month or two to sort of like sit with Perry, the car accident, somebody stealing my Ralph, and my neighbors were amazing and they rallied around me and they sent me links to like discounted skeletons and like all kinds of random stuff. So James is now out front and he is now bike locked to the railing. But the UPS drivers have their fun back because they've taken pictures of him like posed with the packages again. So somebody put his little foot up on something the other day. Anyway, so that all worked itself out and it's all lovely. But I also was traveling, and I will talk about that more during the last part of this video because this is already much too long and I haven't said anything about anything related to knitting. But suffice to say, I feel great. Knock on wood, I won't have any more crazy, weird life things that are happening that derail me. And yeah, so let's get into what I'm wearing. What am I wearing? This, for those of you who made it, is the Stephen West 2024 MCal Go-Go Dynamo. So let me give you a close-up so that you can see what's happening here. So Stephen West is one of my favorite shawl designers of all time. And it's so funny because when I first started knitting 20 something years ago, obviously he didn't exist. When I came back to knitting like 10 years ago, he did exist, but I had never heard of him because the groups of people that I knit with didn't talk about him. And then it wasn't until I moved back to Madison and joined a knitting group that people started talking about him in the MCal. And I thought, who is this person? And now I think this is what, shawl 14 of his, something like that. I don't even know, but just look at the construction. So let me actually take this off so that you can see the brilliance of this man. Like, look at this. It's amazing. It's amazing. So when the MCal came around, I didn't do last year's because of all the drama. I couldn't restart it. But when this one came along, I thought, okay, I'm going to Sheep and Wool this year, Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. I'm going to find some yarn there to do the MCal because I really want to do the MCal again this year. And I knew I needed 2 colors and a color pop or a mohair dare. And I thought that should be findable. 5 colors at Sheep and Wool. Really depends on the vendors, but 2 colors and a color pop or a mohair dare, that should be fine. So I walked around and I found the green and the beige, for those of you who are longtime viewers, if you know, you know, I decided to actively make a shawl using beige. That was my challenge for myself. I said, you know what? I don't have any beige shawls and I'm going to make a beige shawl. Now I failed because does this read beige to anybody? Of course not, but it's got beige in it. It really does, which I think is hysterical. So anyway, so I found the green and the beige almost instantly. And then I'm walking around with my friend Dana and I'm like, I need a mohair. And I said, I guess maybe I'll try to get like a green or a beige mohair to kind of like coordinate. But we walked the stalls multiple times and I couldn't find a mohair. And I thought, I don't know if I want to buy this green and beige and then like not be able to actually like make this shawl, because then what am I going to do with this beige, right? Like it has to go with the green. So anyway, long story short, I had this idea and I thought the mohair is held with a strand of fingering weight. That's going to make it kind of like fingering weight plus depending on the mohair that I use. But what if I just substitute a totally different yarn for the mohair plus fingering weight and I do a speckle dare? Because y'all know I love a speckle. I love a speckle. Listen, I don't know who first started the speckled yarn trend, but whoever you are, thank you, because nothing elevates a sweater to me more than a speckle. It's them's the rules, okay? So let me show you close up. Where's my favorite speckle? I had it picked out the other day because you know how I am. You know, I always find like the speckle. There's one that's like a dark blue. I'm probably not going to be able to find it now. Oh, nope, found it. Okay, let me hold on to it, but let me show you. So these triangles were just supposed to be in the contrast color, but instead, and this was Dana's idea, I did them with the speckle. So every other one is speckled. Same thing with the brioche. I use the speckle. Same thing with these little baubles. I use the speckle. It's fantastic. Now, what's my favorite speckle? There it is. Do you see it? Do you see that blue one? It's my favorite in the entire shawl. Anyway, so let me tell you what the speckled yarn is. Actually, so the green and the beige, I don't remember the exact colors. I feel like they were just numbers, so not super helpful, but if I find them, I'll put them in the description below. But they are sheer wool fiber threads, and this is their sock 4-ply. 400 yards for 100 grams, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So that's the green and the beige. And then the speckled yarn, which the other thing that I loved about this when I found it is that, do you see how it is the exact same base? Like this is actually like a variegated yarn. You can kind of see that there's like more beigey parts and more naturally white parts. Do you see that? But the base of the speckle is the exact same color as the natural of this yarn. So it actually just like, what? I don't even know how that even happened. Like it's so perfect. It's like absurd, like completely ridiculous. So anyway, the speckled yarn is by Oink Pigments. It is their Whimsy base, which is a fine superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And it is in the colorway Pigs Just Want to Have Fun. So anyway, I absolutely adore this shawl. I absolutely adore it. I love the speckles. I love the beige. I love everything about it. I love the construction. I loved knitting it. Just like, it was so creative the way that the pieces came together, and I was like knitting it like, what is happening? Like, what is the shape of this thing gonna be? And I was very worried. But it turned out beautifully, and that's that's just the genius of Stephen West. It really is. So even last year's shawl, I didn't make it because of like all of the stuff, but the finished shawl was gorgeous. And I probably will go back and try to knit it at some point once the bad taste in my mouth is gone, because, okay, so that is Go Dynamo, Stephen West. I'm going to take this off because it's a little bit warm in here, but I probably will put it back on because shout out to perimenopause. Temperature's always fluctuating. So sometimes I'm hot and sometimes I'm cold. I also finished a project that those of you who are longtime viewers might recall, which is my Lento. So I'm just pulling up the details of the yarn because I've already forgotten the name of the modal that I used. Aha, there we go. Okay, so I want you to see how drapey this is. Do you see that? So it fits me perfectly. It is so comfortable. It is soft. It's speckled. So do you see that? Look at that. Do you see that? Okay, so what are the yarns? So I used Universal Magnolia. That's what it was. So the white is Universal Magnolia, and I held it with a strand of Evergreen Fiberworks Surrey Silk Haze in black opal. So the white is almond and the evergreen is black opal. So held these two together. This is the result. It was so good. I immediately ordered more of the Magnolia so that I could make another one of these with like a different color palette. I still had black opal too, so I'm gonna use that for something. I don't know what, but like, look at how beautiful. It reminds me of like impressionist watercolors. Like, and also because it's so drapey, like it also sort of gives the impression of like liquid water, right? Crazy. And the speckles. So finished that. Was very excited to wear this. I wore this on my 2 trips. Sadly, it was very hot in Boston when I was there. So all the sweaters that I brought did not see a lot of wear in Boston, but they saw a lot of wear in Montreal because woo, was it cold. Okay, but we'll get to that. And then a wonderful, pardon my scalp, a wonderful forgotten fave to finish, which is a thing I was starting to do last year, but didn't quite, maybe it was 2 years ago, didn't quite keep with it, but I did keep with it this time. So when I knew I was going to be traveling, I thought, let me take a bunch of projects because all I'm going to be doing is knitting on this vacation. That was not true. Things happen, but I took a shawl that has been neglected, that has been treated very poorly. And for what reason? Because I chose the wrong background color. That's my fault. The shawl has done absolutely nothing. The shawl is not at fault. Okay. But this is my painting Honeycombs, also by Stephen West. So I used a kit from Sun Valley Fibers. It is in their MCN gradient, or MCN base. It was a gradient kit. So it was, what is that, merino cashmere nylon, I believe. So all the colors that you see are that. And then the background color, which I did not like, it's my fault, is a Malabrigo sock, I believe. Wait, hold on. Ultimate sock in grease gray. So the gray has like a blue tone to it. And I was desperate. I remember when I bought this, I had gone into my local store, RIP Fiddlesticks, and I was desperate to start this because I was knitting it with another friend from my knitting group, and I really wanted to cast it on, and I was like, I really need a background color, and I wanted it to be black because I wear a lot of I wear a lot of black. There was no black in the store. And I thought, well, I can't really drive to the other stores because I need to get back to work. But I really need to start this like right now. Now, why did I need to start it right now? Because I'm ridiculous. That's why. I could have waited. It took me 2 years or something to finish the shawl. So like, what was the rush? But this is what I do. So instead of just waiting and getting the black that I wanted, I got the grease, and then I hate knit this. I hate knit it all the way to here. Now, if you look at the top, it says it's a gradient kit. I don't know what the definition of gradient is over there, but no. So there's this and this fade into each other very nicely. Like you almost can't tell that they're two separate colors if you don't look that closely. And then this and this is a lovely gradient. You can't really see that either, but the two are very distinct stripes. They're very distinct. They're very much not fading into each other. And I kind of thought, well, maybe if I had done it in a different order, but no, there just was no, it's just a bunch of distinct colors. I think maybe whoever boxed this one or packaged this one just like messed up because like not a gradient. Also, my friend is doing a blue, teal, mustardy gradient set also, and hers also are just stripes. Like they don't fade into each other. So maybe I don't know the definition of gradient. That could be. What, you tell me, would you expect a gradient kit for them all to sort of like blend seamlessly one to the other, or would you expect stripes? I don't know. Anyway, so I worked on this, and the other thing is that when you start, you start with the long edge, you do an I-cord cast on of like 200 stitches or something ridiculous. And I was like, Steven, why are you like this? Now, I get it, because then you're just decreasing the whole time, which is more motivating than increasing, you know? But that cast on was rough. So that, plus the background color, plus the not gradient, I just was like, I don't want to work on this. And so it got stuck in a bag, and I threw the bag somewhere and forgot about it. And then when I knew I was going on my trip, I thought, oh, I need mindless knitting. This is relatively mindless. Let me just go get that somewhere, wherever it is, and just work on that. But I had gotten to this point. Sorry, I'm pointing to the wrong one. I've gotten to this point, and you can see that we've got sort of purples and I don't know, whatever color this is, maroon, purpley maroon. But then I got to the next set of colors and I was like, what is this? Like, what? Huh? Huh? It doesn't go with anything. And so I was so distraught, and I had worked the whole thing thinking, oh, maybe it'll look more like it goes once I've done more of it. And I did that one row and I thought, oh God, I can't finish this shawl with this color. So then I panicked because I thought, well, I don't have enough of the other two colors, like the last two, to get to the end of the shawl. So I went desperate to, I believe I went to Sunset Yarn, and I said, do you have any yarn that will match what I've got going on here? They had a Sun Valley MCN in, I don't remember the color, sorry, but they had this color in the same base as all of the smaller skeins that I had. And I said, great, because to me, that is very close, if not almost the exact same color. It isn't in person, but it's like close enough. So then I said, okay, great. I'm going to pivot and just leave that weird rust row. And I'm just going to do a bunch of the purple until I've used about half a skein. And then I will switch to the other two colors and figure out like what I'm going to do to finish this shawl. Now, while I was abroad, I'm so sorry, I'm being so absurd. I was in Canada, so I wasn't really abroad, but like whatever. I got the idea, it actually formulated when I was in Boston, but I got the idea, what if I lean into the weirdness of these last two colors that don't go at all with the rest of the shawl? Like, what if I just made another stripe? Sorry, I'm so excited I kicked my own thing. What if I made another stripe, but I striped the stripe? So just go full bizarre, like what is happening at the end of this shawl, instead of trying to get some kind of like nicely because the gradient was not gradienting, okay? It was not working at all. So that is what I did. So I went back to the weird rusty color so that I could border this big purple section with the original rust and then the new. And then I said, okay, let me stripe that. Do you see that? It's so bizarre and it's so not in keeping with the rest of the shawl, but I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I think it's so strange and I really love it because it's just like, what even happened with this dyeing? So I did all of these. I got very close to the end of those little mini skeins, and then I went back to the purple just to tie it together so that there was sort of like some continuity. So I've got a couple of purple sections, and then I've got some weird stripes of like what's happening. Now, let me put this on so that you can see. It's so good. Okay, let me stop screaming at y'all. I mean, why was I hate knitting this? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's not even blocked. I didn't block the other one either. I'm probably not going to. I'm not gonna lie. But like, huh? So yeah, and like the weird little extra section is like. So anyway. Sometimes I doubt Steven because I don't know where the shawl is going. Sometimes I doubt myself because I've made some like questionable color choices. Sometimes I doubt the dyers because I'm like, what even is happening? But all three of those things prevented me from having this shawl last winter. And I'm mad at myself for letting the nonsense up here prevent me from finishing this. But you know what? It needed to be finished this December because that was when I decided on the striping. And that's what actually, to me, makes this a success because it's so strange, but also works very well together. Like, it just does. So anyway, that is Painting Honeycombs by Stephen West. Also, not for nothing, but the back is super cool too. Like, look at that. So fun. All right. Now, it is time to move on to what am I working on? Now, I'm probably going to do a separate video that is I don't even know what to call it, a keep or frog or something, some kind of video like that. I have so many projects that I have baskets of project bags in multiple rooms that I didn't even know about. Like I went into the sunroom the other day and was like, oh my God, there's projects in this basket. I haven't looked at that basket since I moved into this house. I couldn't tell you what's in there. I have no idea. There are projects in the basement from like a decade ago where I'm like, what are these? Don't know, haven't looked. I've got a bunch of stuff that I started a year ago and was really excited about. Don't know where they are exactly. Lost the Khaled shirt that I was crocheting. Don't know where that is. Might be in the sunroom, actually. Might be in one of those baskets. Anyway, today we're not going to do all of that. So I have said many, many times on this channel, your whips are the things that you're touching, not the things that you've started. I don't care if that definition is a cop-out, that's what I'm using. So what have I touched in the past 4 months since my last video? That is what I'm going to show you today. I am not going to dig through every project bag. Same thing with acquisitions when we get there because, whew. But anyway, what have I touched? So first of all, I started, sorry, this is going to be the little interlude where I got to once again be staring at my iPad because that's the other thing about Perry. You just can't remember anything. Can't remember anything. Just don't even know. Ugh. Anywho, okay. So one of the things that I love about Rabbit is that it is very easy to use. One of the things that I don't like about Rabbit, it doesn't show the designers' names. So routinely, I'm like, who designed this? And then I'm like staring everywhere in Rabbit and I can't find it. So Sorry, 1 second. Now I gotta log into Ravelry directly so that I can actually tell you who this designer is. I know, very good podcasting, but y'all forgive me. It's been many months. I'm rusty. Okay. Oh no. It's a name that I'm gonna butcher. Anyway, so I mentioned maybe in my last podcast, maybe the one before that I don't have a black cardigan. I wear so much black that not having black basics is kind of absurd at this point. And I don't have black basics because I think in my mind, but I wear so much black that like I should have like colors to go with all of my black skirts and pants and leggings and whatever. And like, sure, but sometimes I just want to wear all black. And then I'm like, I don't have a cardigan. I don't have a sweatshirt. That's going to be a thing that I will talk about later. So to rectify that, I decided to make a black cardigan. Now, what did I do? I went to Sheep and Wool and I bought a bunch of yarn that's not black. So I'm now calling this my not black cardigan, which kind of feels like a waste, but the yarn is so nice and so soft and so I have to make it. So we're putting a pause on the actual black cardigan. But it's fine. It's dark. At least it's dark. It's not like a cream colored cardigan. So and it's not like a bright color. It's like me. It's like an ashy-ish. No, it's not. I don't know. Y'all, I don't know. But anyway, so I took this with me on my trip and I was really excited. I, as you can see, did not get very far. And you might be wondering, that's all you did? It is all I did. You know why? Because the counts are off. I got to a point where I was like, what is going on with this? And I like couldn't figure out what I'd messed up. I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I just said, I'm shipping this back to Madison and I'll deal with it when I get back. And that is where it was in a box. And I refuse to acknowledge it for the rest of my trip. So this was, I should say, the Growing Cardigan by Lena Kjeldsen. I'm going to assume that name is some kind of Scandinavian, and I'm going to be using my Norwegian skills to pronounce it. So, Lena Kjeldsen, I hope. The pattern, I think, is fine. I don't think this is a pattern problem. I think it is a me problem in that when I started it, I wasn't paying enough attention and I got my counts wrong. So, although I have been told by people that the pattern is confusing, so maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. But I'm not giving up on it because I really want the cardigan. So I'm going to rip this completely out, like 100% out, and start it over. But probably not until the beginning of February. So this week is like a preview of the rest of the winter. Although I'm really hoping it isn't. I really hope it gets warmer because I want to go outside. I like to be outside, you know? But we'll see. So yeah, I'm just going to rip it out and I'm going to start it over because I want it, but also part of me is like, but maybe just go buy some black yarn so that you don't have to re-knit it in this brown that you're then not gonna, so I don't know, I'm torn. What do y'all think? Does it make sense to, like, since I have to rip it out anyway, could I repurpose this yarn for like a cardigan? Not a cardigan, for like some kind of like tee or another Lento, maybe like something that's like not a cardigan that I would wear with things. Cause I kind of feel like wearing a cardigan, black makes more sense because I'm going to wear it over other colors. I don't know. Now I'm like, I wasn't second guessing myself until I started talking on this podcast. And now I kind of feel like maybe making a not black brown cardigan doesn't make sense. Although if I'm wearing all black, that's kind of like, I think, a pretty cool look. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So that's that. It's a disaster. It will be ripped out and redone. And I was also sad too because the bag is so amazing and like wasted. So like I got to put something in that bag that is worthy of the bag because this project, as it currently stands, not worthy of this bag. So gotta fix that. But the other thing that I touched, although only touched, did not actually knit on. So I'm already going against my definition of whip, but it's fine. It's something that I wanted to touch. Maybe I'll put it that way. Like I want to work on this, and now is the time to work on it. But they are the Shine Mittens by Sofia Capelle, I think. So let me show you what I have so far, which isn't very much. I think it's what I showed you last time. So there we go. So this is the palm side, that's the thumb, and the cuff, which is beautiful. And then that's the back side. So on camera, it's actually a lot more contrasty than it is in person, which I think is part of why I lost a little bit of steam. But I kind of like that it's bright and that it isn't so like in your face with the patterning. And this yarn is, it's the Hue Loco, which I think is their DK. Is it the DK weight Lopi or the sport weight? I think it might be the sport weight. So there's like Let Lopi and like a bunch of other weights. But this is, I believe, is the sport weight. So yeah, so I really like it like a lot. And the colors are Lily White and Summer Yellow, which the Summer Yellow is exactly what I wanted in this winter. But as you can see, I don't have a mitten yet. So I gotta get back to these because I really want to wear them. And I think they're gonna, I mean, like, look at that. Look how fun that is. So yeah, more of this. So I'm definitely gonna be putting some effort into this. I'm definitely gonna be ripping out the other thing. But the thing that I have been working on, which I'm doing as a mini cal with my friend Dana, that has been consuming my every waking minute. Although I didn't knit for a long time, so this is, I'm being dramatic. It's really been like the last couple of weeks, but still. In November, we took a ladderback jacquard class with Zanete Knits. It looks like Zanete, but it's pronounced Zanete, which I think is very cool. I forget where she's from originally, but it's like a, maybe, I don't want to say I don't know. Just apologies if I'm wrong, but I want to say she's maybe like Latvian or Lithuanian. But it's pronounced with like a French accent, which I just think is like really cool. Like I love language stuff like that. So anyway, I took a ladderback jacquard class with her online because those of you who might remember my moonflower coat, I tried to use that technique on the moonflower coat and I had trouble with like it showing through on the other side. And I thought, oh, maybe I don't really know how to do this. And like having a class would be nice. So the class was amazing. And she has a bunch of patterns that explicitly use ladderback jacquard. So she shows you sort of like where to like start the ladders and like complete them and all of this. And I thought this is amazing. I don't have to think too hard. So I'm going to do that. So we picked a pattern, which is the Sweet Violet sweater. And let me just show you what the finished sweater is supposed to look like. Nope. There it is. So that is the Sweet Violet sweater by Zanete Knits. We decided that we were going to knit this together. I went to the Sausier here in Wisconsin, and I said, okay, my not black cardigan is not black, but what if I made a sweatshirty type color work sweater that is black? Like, what if I did that? So that is what I decided to do. And I remembered that I had yarn from another, like a long time ago. I bought yarn from the Scranton Stitcher. I think that's, now it sounds funny that I'm saying it out loud, but, and so I remember that I had that yarn and I had 2 skeins of it and I thought that's perfect. And I went to Sausier and they had black and a couple of bases, but they weren't going to work that well with the contrast color that I had. So I ended up getting Plucky and I don't remember the color. So apologies for that, but Oh boy. This is what I have so far. The fact that I'm even filming this podcast right now and not knitting, like, can I get an applause for that? Because look at this. She's a master at color work. Let me just say that. Like there's so many patterns that I want to make. Like, so I can't even, but also the colors that I picked, if I do say so myself, are kind of perfect for what I wanted, because it's like, it's black, but it's got so much depth in the pink sections. Like it's variegated. There's color pops. There's all kinds of like little speckles. It's just, so I'm very excited about this yarn, and I will put the yarn below because I can't find the tag, which I actually set aside so that I could tell you what it is. But of course I can't find it. Sad face. I was doing so well too. I was like, look at me remembering things, and now, nope. Yeah, it's not in here. Oh, wait. That's because I put it, oh, you didn't see that. It's because I put it in this bag so that I wouldn't lose them. Okay, so it is Eye of the Beholder, which is her luxe fingering base, and it is 70% superwash merino, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. So the Scranton Stitcher. Now, she had a Twilight Zone themed drop like maybe 2 years ago. I don't even remember, but she had a bunch of colors and I picked them based on my favorite episodes. So not on the colors, which is pretty funny actually, because like what? But Eye of the Beholder is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes of all time, and that is what this color is. So worked out great because it's a bunch of interesting pinks with lots of speckles and sort of like grunginess to it that I just, I also love grunge. So love that. But then the other colorway that I got was the Howling Man, which is another one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes. Like those two episodes are probably, apart from the Shatner airplane one, which it's Flight something, I can't remember the exact name, but those are like my top 3 Twilight Zone episodes of all time. And then I've got other ones. But so when I saw those two colorways, I bought them immediately. And I got them both in the same base so that I could use them for something, but I didn't know what I was going to use. So look at me using Stache. Now, what you might see on the inside, or what you might not see on the inside, is there's no ladders. Where are the ladders, Sarah? They're not there. You know why? I restarted this shawl. I restarted this sweater 3 times. 3 times. First time, I messed up the placement of the ladders. It happens. Second time, I put the ladders in the right place, but they looked funny. Like from the outside, like I was getting the same effect that I was getting with the Moonflower coat. And I said, my tension must be off. So like, let me rip this out and try it again, but using a different catch technique and like whatever. So I did that. Third time, same exact thing. So actually, I guess I restarted 4 times. Well, whatever. So after that time, I took a good look at the Plucky and I said, there's something odd about this yarn. And I'm not sure what it is, but it's like my normal color work technique, which I've used for every color work thing I've ever done, never puckers. It always looks great. And I always use contrast color in my left hand, main color in my right hand. I continental knit with my left hand. I flick English style with my right hand. That's what I've been doing for my whole life, and it's always been fine. This time, not fine. It was puckering, it was pulling, there were like the colors were showing through. So like there were black sections with like pink popping through. And I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. Like, what am I going to do? So I ripped it out again And I just sort of sat with it for a while and I thought, okay, I know I picked this project because I wanted to practice ladder back jacquard, but also I can't keep restarting the sweater like every other day because it's really demoralizing. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to catch the floats. I'm just going to catch the floats. So that's what I'm doing for this now, is just catching the floats. I think the yarn is a little bit springier than I'm used to. It's called plucky, and I'm wondering now if it's called plucky for that reason. And actually, hold on, I've got the label here. So it is superwash merino cashmere nylon. That's like a normal mix. I don't know, but for whatever reason, my style of two-stranded or two-color, my way of knitting color work with like one in each hand, it does not work with this yarn, like at all. It did not work, at least for ladder back. It's working okay for my float catching technique, but if you looked really close, like some of these are also puckered. So I've had to knit like very loosely to prevent it from like springing back, which I just never had to do with any other yarn. So it's making it a little bit more tedious, but I've gotten the hang of it now. So it's a lot less of an issue at this point, but trial and error. But I was not willing to give up on this sweater, and I'm really glad that I didn't give up, because like this is going to be a great sweatshirt. This is going to be I'm going to wear the heck out of this sweatshirt. Okay. Like, and one of the things that we decided to do when we were looking at it was for the center of the flowers, add beads. So you can see here that I've added these sort of like brassy gold beads, and I'm currently on, let's see, where's the beginning so that I can show you the row that I'm on, which is adding extra beads. Can you see that? It's kind of hard to see. There we go. So that's another flower center. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this project. Now that I've gotten my catch technique looser, I've learned the yarn a little bit more now. I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm going to. As I've said many, many times, I admit when I make mistakes. I should have swatched. I should have swatched, because if I'd swatched, I would have been like, oh, this yarn is kind of springy and it's kind of pulling in a weird way, and like my stitches are kind of tight. But I didn't, because YOLO. So am I going to swatch for my next project? No. I'm not going to, because I don't learn. Because I don't learn. But yeah, that would have helped. That probably would have helped quite a bit. But anyway, I'm happy with the results. It's hopefully the blocking will ease the stitches a little. Who knows? It's whatever. I honestly don't really care. I think a little bit of puckering, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not going to take away from the amazingness of the sweater, of the yoke. And the yoke, actually, the thing I love about her designs is the yoke, the design continues down the sweater, and you split for the sleeves and continue the design. So for those of you who've watched my previous videos where like the yoke is very deep and you've got an armhole like down here and it's, you know, you don't have any of that with her design because you're splitting for the sleeves. And I'm like, that's really smart. That is really smart. So anyway, that is the Sweet Velvet, not Velvet, the Sweet Violet sweater by Zanete Knits. So loving it, loving the beads, loving the yarn, loving the whole thing. So I'm going to be speed knitting it because I really want to get it done so that I can wear it maybe to the ballet in a couple weeks. We'll see. All right. So I told you it was going to be a long one. I hope that you're hydrating. I'm also going to just like, okay. I'm really not hydrating enough because I'm talking, but it's okay. Now, acquisitions. As I mentioned with the whips, I have purchased or received many things. I cannot at this time go through all of them, but I will say that I took a break. I tried not to buy any yarn in 2023 because I had so much of it. There's so much more that you can't see. But I also made it to, I think I got to sit into and I bought like 4 skeins of mitten yarn and was like, okay, that's all the yarn I bought this year. Like that's, well, and 2 skeins from Espace Tricot, but that was to replace something else. So I was like, that's all the yarn I bought. I've done really well. And I was like, but I really want to get yarn at Sheep and Wool. So I did, and I showed you that yarn. And then it just opened the floodgates. I've just been buying yarn. I've got a whole bag of yarn from Sausier. I don't remember what I was even going to make with any of the yarn in that bag. I've stared at it multiple times and been like, was there an Andrea Mowry sweater I was going to make? Maybe? And I'm like, I don't know. So it's just going to sit in the bag until I can remember what I was doing with it. But that certainly didn't stop me from buying myself some birthday yarn because why not? Because why not? So I turned 45 in December. I decided to celebrate by taking a birthday trip to Boston to see my friends who live out in Boston. And then I knew that I wanted to also do Christmas in Montreal because that had been something I had done a couple of years ago and it was really nice and I wanted to have that experience again. So, yeah, I'll talk more about the trip, but basically I knew when I was going that I wanted to get yarn to make some socks. And I knew that I was going to get yarn to make another one of Jeanette's sweaters because I've been obsessed with this since I saw it at the online, during the online class. Like I just knew, like I got to make this sweater. So when I was in Boston, my friend lives very close to Gather Here. So I walked to Gather Here and I just sort of like took a gander at what kinds of things they had to offer, and they had some really fun sock yarns. So 2 of the skeins that I got are these 2. So they are Melanie's Stache, which I think is really cute. Like that's so cute. And this is the color Koi Pond and the color Sugar Rush, and this is in her Tough Sock base. Tough Sock. So that is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So generous yardage, 463 yards in these skeins. And so, yeah, I don't know what socks I'm going to make, but I'm very excited to make socks. And this yarn feels really good. So I'm very excited to use this first. So I'm going to try to like use this to bring the joy of sock knitting back because I don't really like knitting socks anymore. So when I used to commute from Providence to Cambridge, I had like 2.5 hours each way and I would really knit anything, but I knit a lot of socks. And now, I don't know, I just, for whatever reason, I don't seem to enjoy knitting socks anymore, even though I keep trying to. So I'm hoping that some fun, brightly colored, nice feeling yarn will kind of get me out of my funk and like get me to like knitting more socks, but we'll see. But the yarn that I'm most excited about is this yarn. So this is, Herd of Cats. There we go. I'm like, where is the name? So this yarn is by Herd of Cats. It is called the Road Trip Sock Yarn. It's made in Denver, Colorado. But what is so special about this yarn? It is a custom color dyed specifically for Gather Here, and it is the colorway Union Square. Now, Union Square is in Somerville. Somerville is where I lived for 8 years. And when I was back visiting my friends, I spent so much time in Union Square going to coffee shops and my favorite restaurant in the neighborhood and Hub Comics and just walking. I went to my favorite Dunkin', which is not even a nice Dunkin'. Like no one in Boston would consider it like a good Dunkin', but it's just the one that I used to walk past all the time. I love Union Square. Like it's one of my favorite places and I lived so close to it when I lived in Boston. I lived right up the hill from Union Square on Winter Hill. And so when I saw this colorway and that it was sort of a fun green and then it's full of speckles, like full of speckles, I knew it was meant to be. So this is also going to be a pair of socks. This is going to be a pair of socks. And I don't know what pattern to make. So if people have suggestions for sort of fun sock patterns, let me know. But also, like how fun. Amazing. So anyway, so that was probably the most serendipitous purchase I made this whole trip was finding this specially dyed Union Square sock yarn in a color that matches the shawl that I had taken with me. So very excited to start these socks. Probably will make these first, to be honest. And then I found out about this company from my friend, and I knew that I wanted to get a skein to make some kind of tee or shirt or something. And I also wanted to get her some yarn, just like, you know, for her birthday and Christmas. I got this. So I had never heard of Nightfall before. I clicked their website, immediately was like, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble, especially because I'd been trying so hard to not buy a lot of yarn, and I failed. And we'll talk about that another time, because there's not room for the yarn I've purchased, which means I need to knit faster, but also I haven't been knitting because of all the reasons that I said. So like, it's just accumulating, and that feels not great. I don't love that feel, but I do love having all the beautiful yarn. So it's like, it's, you know, it's, so anyway, what is this? This is their Spun Sock XL in the color Stargaze. So I just want to bring this closer. Do you see how grungy that is? Like the base is basically sort of like this deep, like I'm going to say aubergine, like eggplant, kind of gray, dusty eggplant with like some magenta, some like darker grape purples, but then it's just got these like sections of like dusty sort of like, I don't even know. Like, look at that. It's like mustardy, dusty mustard. I don't even know. But so this was a win. I am definitely going to be ordering more from this company, because the moody, broody sort of vibe that they had, I was like, that's exactly, those are the colors that I wear. Those are the colors that I like. So I've got Surrey all over me, but never mind that. So yeah, and the thing that I really like about this is because it's the XL, it's 600 yards in one skein. 600 yards. Merino, superwash merino, 80%, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. This is going to make an amazing tee. I don't know what the tee is going to be, but it's going to be amazing, whatever it is. So there we are. That's another one of my great purchases. Nightfall, Stargaze. All right. And not last but not least, because I also want to show something that I received but did not purchase. But the last thing that I bought for myself, yarn-wise, while I was in Montreal, and that was for, okay, see, my iPad sometimes just refuses to be decent. I don't know why it's like this. 1 second. Nope, that's actually probably going to take way more time than what I'm trying to do. All right, so I saw this sweater and I immediately knew that I had to make it. But I also, when I went to all of my local stores, could not find yarn that would do the thing that I wanted, was not going to have the gradient that I wanted. So it is the, hold on. Okay, I just did all of that. Okay. It's the Yoke Meditation Series 4 pullover by Zanete Knits. Do you see this? Now, of course, me being me, I wanted it in black. I gotta see, this is, I just need to lean into it. I gotta stop fighting against my nature. I just need to stop fighting against my nature. So anyway, and I also need to stop kicking them. So I wanted black. I also had decided I'm gonna go to Espace Tricot and I'm going to get my yarn there so that it has even double meaning when I knit the sweater. The problem is that when I got there, they didn't have black. They didn't have black. And so I thought, oh, well, I don't want to leave here with no yarn, but also if they don't really have what I want, like I'm not going to make that mistake because, you know, the painting honeycombs was still very fresh in my mind. So I said, okay, let me walk around and see if there's anything else that speaks to me, any combos that I could do. And we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. And I found some winners. I found some winners. So we have the Bon Tricot by Julie Asselin, the Mélange Fingering weight yarn in the color Oxford Blue. So it's actually coming across a little bit dusty than it actually is. It's more of like a richer navy with some dusty parts. Like it's a variegated, like tonal maybe is a better, it's not variegated, it's like a tonal yarn. So it's got some dusty parts, but most of it is pretty dark. So I got this, and then I was looking for something that I could use for the variegation, because the whole beauty of that yoke is that you have two colors sort of intersecting and then passing each other by, but you need one of them to actually be like some kind of gradient something. And so I found this. So kind of weird. Not what I was going for. I was going for black and some kind of broody, kind of like the Nightfall, except the Nightfall is a little too dark to go with black, but something kind of like in that vein. But then when I looked at this, I thought it's got chartreuse, it's got sort of dusty pink, it's got gray, it's got some navy, which will work very nicely. I thought this is such a weird combo. And that actually probably will make the sweater like more interesting than what I was going to do, which is just like black and a gradient. So I'm really excited for this combination, and I'm looking forward to making, oh, sorry, this color. This is the Schoppel. I think this is a Zorbable. I never know how to read these tags. I buy them and I'm always just like, what do I even say? I still don't know, because it doesn't say anything on this tag. There's like 3 tags. None of them, it says edition 3. I feel like that's like not, I don't think that's the actual name of anything though. I don't know. Still can't tell. So anyway, it might just be, maybe this is actually the type of yarn. Maybe it is the Schoppel edition 3. But the color is 2301_. Very descriptive. Anyway, so I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to this sweater. We'll see if I feel the same way by the time I get ready to start it, because right now I'm excited about this and that sweater, but I also might want something that's like more sophisticated and a little bit more broody and like a little bit less whatever this is going to be. But for now, I'm really happy with it, and I definitely am happy with this for sure. So we'll see. So anyway, that is all the yarn that I purchased. I also got myself a couple of trinkets. So I showed this a little bit by accident earlier, but I bought this pickle bag, Christmas pickles. Santa pickles is what I was calling it. They're my Santa pickles. So I didn't know this tradition at all. I just thought the bag was funny. And when I was in Boston, they had a little Santa pickle ornament that I bought. And she was like, do you know the story? And then she told me this whole story, and I was like, oh, I just bought a knitting bag like a week ago with these pickles. And so I thought it was really funny to have the two. And she was just like, So anyway, this is a bag. It's made by Taine or Taine. Don't know. And it's called Christmas Pickle Zipper Bag. So you can find her bags at shop.taineah.com. It's a very nice bag, very well made. And I just think it's really funny and perfect for the holidays. So anyway, I also I'm not going to go dig those out, but I got some, I guess they're yarn minders. Is that what they're called? They're like little socks, little tubes that you can put around your skeins to prevent them from falling apart. I noticed that when I wound my center pull balls the other day, they started to beehive out of the bottom. And so I thought, oh, I don't want to end up with like a big mess because I'm already knitting this. So I bought those, shoved the skeins in, and so far it's helped kind of keep them contained. So very excited about that. And we'll probably use those on other projects. And then the last thing that I got for myself, last two things. I bought another bag, project bag, just from Target, nothing fancy or exciting. But I wanted something that I could travel with easily, like a bigger project. So this is just, I mean, what is it? It's Universal Threads. Literally, it's just Target. So it's whatever that is. So it's got a lot of space. It's got like an inside pocket, which is really fun. And it's got like backpack straps. And then I also got like a little notions pouch. That's unrelated, but I thought would be kind of like fun to add inside for, you know, little things that I might need. So yeah, so that's another thing. And then the last thing that I got is to help facilitate the beading of the Sweet Violet sweater. And I saw this at Target, I think yesterday, or no, I haven't been out of the house. So 2 days ago when I was out before it got so cold. And it is just this cute little dish. And it says, I love you, underneath, which I thought was a lovely message to tell myself while I was beading. So yeah, I just pour the little beads in this and then I can pluck them up with my crochet hook from here. So there we are. All right, so that is everything that I've purchased for myself. I now want to share something that I was given because it was such a thoughtful gift, and it has brought me so much joy. So for my birthday, my friend Dana ordered the hybrid knit along, one of the hybrid knit along kits, so that we could knit the same kit together, because that's something that we've been doing for the past couple of months, and it's been really fun just like getting together once a week to like sit and knit on like the same project. So I didn't know it was happening. It was a big surprise. I was like really overwhelmed because it was like such a thoughtful gift. But Dana is a very thoughtful person. So this, I don't know the name of the kit, unfortunately, but these are the colors. And these are the corresponding mohairs. Like, y'all. Okay, I'm trying really hard. I'm not, there we go. Like, how gorgeous. And like, look at the, like the undertone of this with like the copper. So I cannot wait to get to the hybrid knit along, but the sweater that I'm making is top priority. So I need to finish that before I cast this on, because this is going to be a lot of knitting. I can already tell. But super, super excited about the colors and the yarns, and it's Punk Rock Unicorn, and she knows that like that's one of my favorite brands. So I'm really excited to like try this out. And it's the glow hair that I've never used. So this is the Stephen West, Stephen and Penelope brand mohair. And this is 64% mohair, 36% mulberry silk. So very fun, but like, look at that. So very excited to try out a new yarn, and really excited to use my old tried and trues, my faves. So that was part of the gift. And then because it was part of the hybrid knit along kit, it also came with a needle sizer, which I love that it's a snowflake, like how cute. And this lovely mug. And there's a Stroop waffle somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere. I'll probably eat that today, actually, because I forgot about it. But one of the best parts of the gift, which was not part of the hybrid knit along, but it's the painting shawls pattern book. And it's signed by Stephen West. So since I started this video talking about how I absolutely love him, and I've made a bazillion of his shawls, and I find him to just be one of the most creative and innovative shawl designers of all time. I was over the moon to get the book, and then also to have it signed, and then also to have this kit for the Hyper Knit Along. So public shout out to Dana for being a wonderful friend and a very thoughtful friend. And I am looking forward to starting this beautiful shawl with all of these accoutrements. So, all right, that is the end of the fiber. I'm going to do a little bit of storytelling now about things that are putting some pep in my step. So if you are done, thank you for watching. I definitely recommend signing up or subscribing because I'm really erratic, although I'm trying to be less erratic this year, but I say that every video and then something happens and it ends up being erratic. So recommend that you subscribe. I'm sometimes active on Instagram. That's fallen off a bit as well. I also know people are leaving meta related things, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so anyway, thank you for joining. I'm going to pivot and talk a little bit about the things that are bringing me joy and putting some pep in my step. So thing number one, traveling. So as I alluded to, for my 45th birthday, I wanted to take a trip. I decided in January of last year that I was going to celebrate my 45th birthday like big. I was going to go to Paris or Edinburgh or Montreal or Boston or all of the above. And then the year wore me down, and I literally, it was like, I think it was like November, beginning of November. And I was just like, I'm not sure I'm going to do anything for my birthday at all. I was like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to regret it if I don't do anything for my birthday. Like I'm absolutely going to regret it. So I need to do something. And so at the last minute, I decided to book a train and go to Boston. And then I was like, okay, well, like while I'm there, I'm really close to Montreal, so maybe I'll just continue taking the train. So train travel in America is fraught. I will say that. It's not the best, but I was able to book a bedroom. So I took the train from Chicago to Boston. I had an overnight bedroom. So that's a sleeper car that has both a sofa and seats to sit in. I think it's made for like a couple or like 2 or 3 people maybe. But I was traveling by myself, so it was like pretty luxurious in terms of space, and even still was very small. So like, don't kid yourself. It's not like a large space. So for example, when the bed was down, I couldn't fit my suitcase in the room and also get to the bathroom. So that was like, so I had to ask the attendant to like take my bag somewhere. But it does have a sofa, so you have somewhere to sit that isn't necessarily the bed. So like the bed gets put down at the end of the night and then put back up. The attendant is sort of like responsible for doing that. It has its own bathroom that has a shower. The shower is over the toilet though. So like, I don't know how exactly that works. Like once you've taken a shower, like the toilet area is basically like full of water. So like I wasn't going to shower, but I also just, the logistics of that seemed kind of off. But yeah, the rumble of the train and sort of the watching the landscape go by was like really relaxing. And I really enjoyed my trip down, even though it was like 22 hours. I still have flying anxiety. I will talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know. I didn't mind the train, and I liked that I was in my own little private space, sort of far away from people and noises and smells and sounds and all of that. So like really enjoyed that. I also took the train from Boston to Montreal, but that train, there is no direct train. So you have to stop in Albany. And then you have to, the next day, get on a different train that goes from Albany to Montreal. So that was not great. The Boston to Albany train was okay, but it was like 6.5 hours. The train from Albany to Montreal was like 8 hours, and you're doing like a border crossing, so there's like all of that. The train was so small going from Albany to Montreal that it was just like, ugh. Like never again. Like I'll never take the train to Montreal again, I don't think. But what I loved about the traveling is that I got to see the US in like a different way than I would see if I was flying. So like I really enjoyed the train for that. And one of the things that was probably the best outcome of the whole trip was that I just got to see my friends. So I saw a lot of people in Boston. I saw one of my friends that lives in Montreal, and I just got to have a very sort of community-based birthday and holiday season, which is what I needed. So yeah, so that was really nice. And on the way back, I got norovirus, which I didn't know, but probably got it on the train coming back from Montreal, because man, was it packed and people were very ill. But I had a roomette on the way back. So Boston to Chicago. And so I was basically able to kind of like sequester myself. And I slept most of that 22 hours. And I realized that the roomette is actually probably more to my liking than the bedroom, which is nice because it's way cheaper than the bedroom. So yeah, so I learned how to take the train in the US in a way that works with my personal constitution. I got to see my friends. I got to see all of my old faves, my old haunts in Boston and in Somerville and in Cambridge. I got to speak French and interact with like a bunch of different Uber drivers and see a lot of really great exhibits at museums. I went to the ballet in Montreal. I saw Black Christmas at a really tiny little movie theater in Montreal, and I also saw Nosferatu Christmas Day with a packed theater. So I had a lot of really random, interesting experiences for my 45th birthday, and it wasn't what I had planned in January, but it was what I needed in December. So it was great. I loved it. I was rejuvenated. I took about a month, which I know is a luxury, but my work has it's not unlimited anymore, but it's like as long as it gets approved by your manager, like you can do it. But we won't talk about work because I'm talking about pep in my step and joys. But that also was a thing that made recording and being present here challenging, was like work stuff. So yeah, so traveling was definitely a joy and definitely reinvigorated me and gave me a lot of energy when I got back to Madison after I got done being sick. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing some more traveling this year. And in particular, I'm planning to do a 1-month work from Oslo, Norway trip. That flight is 10 hours. So I am working very hard with my therapist to try to get over the fear of turbulence. And I'm also hopefully going to be seeing my doctor, or a new doctor, hopefully, fingers crossed, who can help me with medication for the flying. Because it's a really bad phobia that is like getting worse every year instead of getting better, which is like really frustrating because I have a lot of places that I want to travel and I can't do that if I'm scared of like every little like wiggle of the plane, which is what is the case now. So anyway, but yes, so if you are either in Oslo, from Oslo, or you know Oslo, like let me know in the comments like where I should go when I get there. I'm going to be staying in a quiet neighborhood because I'm not a big partier. And now I can't think of it. It's like St. Houseman, something like that. But that was recommended by my language exchange partner and my tutor. So I'm fairly certain that that's going to be pretty good. And I need to book the Airbnb today because that was one of my weekend to-dos. But part of me feels like once I book the Airbnb, I'm like locked in. That's right, train. That's right. But I also need to be locked in because I bought a concert ticket to see Picnic i Parken, which is a big music festival that happens in Oslo. And I'm going to be seeing Marstein, who is one of my new favorite artists. And I'm really excited about it. So I need to have a place to stay. And I also then need to buy a plane ticket. So those are sort of my like baby steps to like get me to Norway. But anyway, so that's that. That leads me to my next joy or thing putting some pep in my step, which is Norwegian. So who would have guessed that that would be a thing I would even be talking about still? So as some of you know, I started learning Norwegian for a guy to impress him. I'm not proud of that, but turns out that most guys that I know, that I have encountered in my life, are not that impressed by these kinds of things. I'm also at a point where I'm like, why am I trying to impress men? So I've let that go. But what I haven't let go is Norwegian. So I am loving the language so much. I'm having such fun with learning how to pronounce things and being able to speak more and being able to read. I read the newspaper. I've been listening to a ton of music, a lot of audiobooks. I have this language exchange partner who is this like really important police officer in Norway. We have really interesting conversations about our jobs and daily life and the weather. And it's just been really fun to sort of like progress as rapidly as I have, because I think it's been about 6 months. And to be able to like listen to my tutor, we had a conversation basically about existentialism actually, and sort of the direction that the world is going and like our roles in the world. And I asked him a couple of weeks ago if he would just speak Norwegian to me and I would speak to him in English until I felt like I had enough vocab for the words to come out, which is coming. And we had that whole conversation with him speaking Norwegian, and I understood like probably 85% of what he said. So that's really exciting. I love learning. I love languages. I love the challenge of communication and sort of being able to put all three of those things together in this one thing has just been like really delightful. One of my goals this year, so I didn't really talk about knitting goals because I don't really have a bunch of them, but one of them is to knit a pattern that is in Norwegian, because I want to learn Norwegian terminology for knitting, just cause. But the other thing that I didn't mention before is that I also want to knit a sweatshirt, like a real one, not the colorwork one, but like a plain black drop shoulder hooded sweatshirt. I need it. I look in my wardrobe every single day for this sweatshirt that does not exist. So those are the two things I want to accomplish this year knitting wise. But yeah, Norwegian's amazing. The people have been so far so welcoming, and I'm really excited to go to Oslo and see like whether or not this is the place for me. Because I am thinking about like where to age, like where to grow old. And without getting too like whatever, I kind of am sort of by myself. Like I have my friends, but without a partner or really like family or things of that nature. Like getting older is kind of scary. And I think a lot about the US healthcare system and how not great it is and how challenging it can be even when you have people to advocate for you. And I just sort of thought, I really want to live somewhere where like they just do a better job of this. So that's in the back of my mind. I'm obviously not old yet, but I am middle-aged. I am firmly middle-aged, and Norway just feels very Wisconsin. So like even talking to my tutor and my language exchange partner about some of the like idiosyncrasies of Norway, I'm like, oh, we do that in Wisconsin. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. I don't know why. And then I realized that Madison is adjacent to two cities that have very large Norwegian populations. So there's Stoughton and there's Mount Horeb. And so I think some of that Norwegian Scandinavian way of doing things has sort of like trickled down into parts of Wisconsin, and people don't even realize it. There's also German influence as well, especially in Milwaukee, which is where I'm from. But anyway, so it's just kind of like a fun thing to realize, like, we're not that culturally different, which is kind of crazy saying that as like a Black woman. But a lot of my things that I like and do feel very Norwegian. So we'll just have to see. We'll see. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, second to last thing, is hydration. So I've been doing a challenge. I'm doing a terrible job of drinking water during this video. But I've been doing a challenge for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 days where I try to drink a gallon of water a day. So the last 2 days, I've not hit my gallon goal. I've been like 24 ounces away or something like that. But I mean, 100 ounces of water is like a lot of ounces. So I'm not thinking of it as a failure, because it's like, I'm only doing it for myself. I'm not trying to like compete or like do it for somebody else. But I've had so much more energy. And part of me is like, have I just been dehydrated for like 6 years? Is that what's going on? Is the pep in my step because I'm hydrated? And I think it might be, because I haven't changed my diet. I haven't really changed anything. I'm still mostly doing the same stuff that I've been doing the whole time. I'm exercising at roughly the same cadence, or less even. So I'm just like, I think I'm just hydrated, which is wild because you always hear how much you need water. And I know that intrinsically, and I'm not one of those people who doesn't like the taste of water. So like, I like drinking water. I just forget to do it. And so now that I'm trying to hit 128 ounces of water, a gallon of water a day, I have to be very mindful of like, okay, I haven't had enough water, because there's no way you can like, well, I can't drink like 32 ounces of water in an hour. That's like way too much. And so the days that I did hit my gallon though, so TMI, apologies, but like I was up all night. And so part of me is like, must get past the halfway point by noon. And by then I've already had 64 ounces of water, which is, generally speaking, a good base for how much water you need in a day. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I wake up and I just feel like full of life. And oh, my stomach is like, could you be full of food though? Soon, stomach. But yeah, I think, because it's dark, it's dreary, it's cold. It's January in Wisconsin. Like, this is the time where people are just like, ugh. And I'm just like, yay! Like, I'm just like, I'm so happy and so like full of energy all of a sudden. And I think it's because I'm hydrating. So shout out to water. And then finally, what is putting some pep in my step? What is giving me immense amounts of joy? It is community. So as I mentioned on my trip, I got to see lots of friends that I don't see on a regular basis, but also I had so many wonderful people here who were looking out for me and my things. So I was worried about being gone. So we had a slew, maybe slew is too many, but we had some folks who were trying to like get into people's cars, or did get into people's cars, and were like rummaging around their things. Somebody was in my garage, somebody was in my neighbor's garage and stole like their son's bike. So there were just like things happening before Christmas that I think happens when like people don't have enough and the holidays are coming and they feel like they need to either get things for themselves or get things for other people. And so they're looking for stuff. So I wasn't like too alarmed, but I do live alone. And I was really worried about going on this trip for a month and leaving like my house unattended and my car unattended, which is like not ideal. And I hadn't really thought about a house sitter until after the fact and was like, oh, that's why people get house sitters. But I mean, like, I've never had a house, so like it just like never occurred to me. But anyway, I sent out like a message to my neighbors, who are delightful, wonderful, amazing humans. And I just said, hey, I'm a little bit nervous since like this stuff's been happening. Like, could you guys keep an eye on my car and like maybe my house? And they were like, yeah, absolutely, we'll take a look. And then I also had some neighbors who came and watered my plants because I knew they'd be dead if I left them for a month. And so like we had a little schedule that I set up for them, and like just wonderful, just like really good people, like just good. And so to thank everybody for just being wonderful, I hosted a little tea party yesterday where I made like a little tea cake, and we all like, they came over and had tea and cake, and we talked, and it was so wonderful just to be in community with my neighbors who just are really lovely people. So those are the things that I have been getting up to since last we spoke. And like I said, I feel invigorated. I feel like I'm not stressed at work anymore. I've got a renewed sense of excitement for knitting, thanks to that wonderful colorwork sweater that I'm working on, and these new beautiful yarns, and my lovely present from Dana. So yeah, so the plan is to come back soon and update you on where I've been, because I'm going to try to finish that sweater before I see you next time. We'll see. We'll see. Oh, I also didn't talk about my reading. I've been reading a ton too. I read 36 books last year, which for some people is no books at all, and for other people seems unattainable. So number of books you read does not have anything to do with your personal value, but I wanted to see if I could read 3 books a month. And it wasn't quite 3 books a month, like in actuality, but it equaled that. And I just read such a variety of books last year. Can't say all of them were great, but that's also part of reading. But yeah, so this year is off to a similar start where I'm just going to try to read a random assortment of things, expand my mind. I'm going to try to read a book in Norwegian. We'll see how that goes. I would like to read another book in French. And yeah. So anyway, I will be back shortly to update you on all of these things. And I hope until then that you have a wonderful, beautiful winter, that you have all of the community and joy that you can find. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.